Hey, welcome back to the shop. My name is Eric. Today, I was asked a while back, what type of fluids do we carry here at the shop and what fluids do we use? So we'll start with engine oil. Engine oil, we always ran the 10W30. And then your newer machines were coming out and they were calling for a synthetic. So in the beginning, we were buying 10W30 for the older machines and buying 10W30 synthetic for the newer machines in the 5-gallon buckets. And that worked out all right. But then I started asking my question, because the synthetic is a little bit more expensive, is how can we streamline this? Will the synthetic hurt the older machines? And the answer is no. So what I ended up doing was I started buying it by the 55-gallon drums. And the big thing was cost. But instead of having this non-synthetic for the older ones and synthetic for the newer ones, I just said, look, let's do synthetic on everything. The machines that we see, we know that we're servicing them every spring or every fall, depending on how the customer wants it done. I have customers that will call us when they're getting ready to put it away and have us do a complete service, so that all they have to do is just turn the key and start mowing the next season. So as far as, I know that you guys out there, I'm going to hear it that some like Quaker State, some like Shell, some like Mobil, some like, the list goes on. Is one better than the other? I don't know. What we tend to do here is we're running the Napa brand or Citgo products for oils. Will the Walmart brand work? Absolutely. And then I've heard you can't mix oil, 10W30 or 10W30 from a different one. My recommendation is, if you start with this oil, stay with this oil. And if you're going to do a switch, then do a total switch so that that unit has got all the same oil in it. So that brings us to the next oil, which is hydraulic oil or hydrostatic transmission oil. That's a little heavier, than regular engine oil. If you're going to use the standard grade, you want to use 20W50 for all your hydrostatic transmissions. If you're going to go to the synthetic, you can drop it down to the 15W50. Now, how often should you be changing your hydrostatic transmission oil in the shop? Well, on your first break-in, which is from brand new in, we recommend 75 hours on average on the hour meter. And then from that point on, it's every 400 hours. But to do the first break-in to get rid of any filings or any crap in it, because with it being new, and that means a complete flush. That means drain the system. New hydrostatic transmission filters. They're like an oil filter. Most of them thread right on. If you follow those rules, then you should do all right. I'm not saying that Walmart is worse or better. I'm saying that go with one and then, don't hogposh mixing oils. Stay with one. So what are some of the other fluids that we use here in the shop? Well, we use carburetor cleaner a lot. Now, again, it's totally up to you, but what we find is the stable is what we use. We use Walmart's for years, and it works just as well, but it's hard to find it on the shelves at Walmart anymore. PB Blaster is what we use we spray everything, even the stuff that looks like it'll never come off. We tried PB Blaster on it, and we've actually used torches to heat stuff with PB Blaster on it just to get it to break free. Grease. You're going to want to have grease on hand. We run the lithium. For your steering, decks, everything that has a grease fitting on it, you're going to want grease in the shop. We also carry a lot of the gas oil mix for the 2-strokes, chainsaws, some outboards, and most of those run a 50-to-1. And we use the smaller containers that'll do 2.5 gallons at a time. But we do it that way because we also have them for sale for our customers here, that they can buy it. We get it by the case. Gas. We go through a lot of gas. What we normally tend to do is buy the 91 octane non-ethanol for our small engines. The newer ones are supposedly made to run on the ethanol, but in a previous video, what you guys should be doing with all of your small engines when you're done using them for the season, or if you're going to stop using them for, let's say, a week, is I highly recommend that you, on the ones that have like where you can put a fuel inline shut off, and just shut the fuel off and let the engine run all the fuel out of the carburetor so that it's not sitting there drawing moisture. One of the biggest things that I see is storage. Every year I get this. We can't get the boat started. We can't get the lawnmower started. We can't get the First thing I ask is, what are you using for fuel? How old is the fuel? And most cases it's from last year. And they bought 10 extra gallons in 2 5-gallon cans last year. We've talked about how ethanol draws moisture into the fuel and how it separates, and the shelf life on ethanol fuel is, years ago you could buy gas and store it for a year, 2 years, and it would still run great. Not anymore. And even for your chainsaws where you're mixing them 50-to-1, stay with as fresh a gas as possible. Don't try buying ahead because the prices are going to go up or this or that. Because if you're sitting on fuel for periods of time, that fuel is going to separate and break down and draw moisture. And you're going to end up with water in your fuel. And your boat, lawnmower, what have you, is not going to run the way you want it to run. Try to stay as fresh as possible. So hopefully this video has kind of helped you out a little bit. You know, everything from what type of oil to carry for doing oil changes. Now, like I said, most of the newer machines coming through, the manufacturer recommends using synthetic. For us, I streamlined it. They all get synthetic. It's not going to hurt the older ones. Yeah, it's a little bit more expensive, but the synthetic is something that will last longer and will take longer to break down than the non-synthetic. Brands, it doesn't matter. You know, is Napa better than Walmart? I don't know. What I do know is we use Walmart for years, And as a convenience, we went with Napa, and we've been very satisfied with their product. It's a little bit more expensive, but I think it is a little bit better grade. And then don't mix oils. You don't want to have one name brand with another name brand. If you're going to do an oil change, make sure that it's all the same oil that you put into it. Hydrostatic transmissions, it's hydraulic fluid. 20 W50 for regular oil, but a lot of your newer ones are calling for the 15 W50 synthetic, and that's what you need to put into it. You got to go with what the manufacturer recommends so that the warranty does not get voided. Fuel. Don't store a lot of gas ahead. And if you're someone that is just a DIY or do-it-yourselfer at home, don't buy a lot of fuel ahead. Buy it as you need it. I know it's an inconvenience to have to go to the gas station and get a couple gallons of gas so you can mow your yard. But is that more inconvenient than having a machine that won't run, that you're out there cranking and cranking and cranking on it and you can't get it to run? Or if it does run, it doesn't run very good. Grease. You got to carry grease. And what we found here is I've got the battery operated one. It saves doing this crank stuff. You know, you just put the battery in it and off you go. We use the lithium grease. Most times any of the grease is going to work well. You know, it's grease. You have different grades of it, but whatever grease that you got will work on your spindles, your drivetrain. I mean, wherever it needs a grease fitting, grease it. So in the comment section, you guys let me know what you guys are using and where you're buying from and what's worked well for you. And on that note, you guys have a great day. Thanks so much for watching.